There was a time, not long ago, when an airplane trip was considered a luxury, a rare departure from everyday life, an experience reserved for those with plenty of courage and money. But in earlier years, Americans were hesitant to fly in the rickety biplanes of the times. The first regular passenger air service took off in 1914 aboard this slender craft, which flew between St. Petersburg and Tampa, Florida. But the service soon went out of business. More than 10 years later, a few brave travelers paid handsomely to accompany pilots on airmail routes. For example, when Western Air Express was flying the mail in 1926, a businessman paid the modern equivalent of $1,400 to sit on the mail sacks on the flight from Salt Lake to Los Angeles. More and more travelers bought these pricey rides with the airmail, until Western Air, sensing a business opportunity, bought a fleet of Fokker F-10 planes and began offering passenger service. Accommodations for passengers on the Fokkers were minimal, but a big improvement over sitting on mailbags. In 1929, Transcontinental Air Transport started a cross-country air service with Ford Trimotor planes. They offered a 2-day trip from New York to Glendale, California. Most of that time was spent in railroad cars, since there was no regular air service between New York and Columbus, Ohio, and between Waynoka, Oklahoma, and Clovis, New Mexico. A one-way fare was over $350, which would equal almost $6,000 in today's money. A round trip would equal the price of a brand new Ford Model A. At least 1/4 of the Transcontinental's passengers were flying for pleasure, though the conditions were hardly pleasant. In addition to tight quarters, inefficient heaters in the passenger compartment earned the Trimotor the title of the Flying Icebox. And since planes were restricted to flying at low altitudes, travelers had to endure lots of turbulence. In 1928, Boeing Air Transport introduced their Boeing 80A, the first airliner designed specifically for passenger service. It featured a spacious cabin appointed with leather upholstery, reading lamps, forced air ventilation, and hot and cold running water. In 1933, United Airlines introduced Boeing's first all-metal plane, the 247. Its more powerful engines enabled it to cross the country entirely by air in 19 hours. But the cramped passenger